Kristina Karamo, chairman of the Michigan Republican Party, spoke at the delegate sign-up event. Here is Kristina.
Thank you all so much. To Melissa's point, the delegates are the party. I just happen to serve in the position as chair. That's it. That just happens to be my particular lane. And I don't say that just as a talking point to make people feel good. Just philosophically, that's how the party needs to work. That's how the party survives. Because if the party is top heavy, then we're constantly dependent on the 2-year cycle of who the chair is. If you got a decent chair, the party goes in a good direction. If the chair is awful, then the party goes in a bad direction. So it causes too much mass instability in the party. But if the party is fundamentally structured to ensure that it's at the grassroots level who dictates the direction of the party, then we have long-term stability. And that's been the problem in the party. When we first got elected, I mean, we walked into a situation where it's like it was a hollow, empty shell. It wasn't even an existent party. So we had a startup. So I don't know how many small business owners we have in here, but you know, building up a business, it takes a couple of years to build a business. So how can we as a party survive if we have to build from the ground up every 2 years? We can't. And one of the challenges for us has been that the Democrats, they have a long-term plan. They have a long-term vision of how they want to fundamentally deconstruct the United States of America. And then our philosophy is we just got to win the election. And then if we win the election, we can fight these things. It's like, wait, let's take a step back. You first have to have a vision. And what is our vision? What are we trying to accomplish? And our goal is to protect the republic. So in order to have a true republic style of government, it requires the involvement of all of us. Like when Pastor Berlin was speaking, that's what he was saying. That oftentimes we complain about these elected officials, but who puts them there? And then our rigged elections, we let them get rigged. And how that occurred is because we went to sleep at the wheel. And many of us were just living our lives going, and that's the thing about us as Republicans, right? We work very hard to govern our lives intelligently. So we go to work every day, we raise our children, we go to church, we do all these responsible things, and we think we show up to vote, we've done our job. And that's where the breakdown was. We thought showing up to vote was enough. That isn't what was going on. We weren't stewards over our government. And because we were stewards over our government, the Marxists, right? These people aren't liberals. They are socialists. They're globalist Marxists. That's what they are. So if you look down historically of what these people have been up to, they've been working on conquering our country for well over 100 years, starting with the Federal Reserve. So you look at what they were up to, and little by little, incrementally, they've been going after our government. And one of the key components of our government they've been going after was the election system. And so they've been going after our government at the municipal level. So they've been taken bit by bit at the municipal level. And for many of us, because we didn't see drastic changes, we didn't really notice. So these changes are happening at the incremental level. Now, all of a sudden, in 2020, we were like, it blew up in our faces. And it's like, whoa, what just happened? So I don't think it's good for us to sit and think about, you know, how we messed up in the sense of feeling bad about ourselves. But it's important to reflect on the past and know how to change it and see how we got here. Because like to Phil mentioned and how Melissa mentioned is thinking of, well, we don't need to relitigate 2020. That's nonsense. And here's why that's nonsense. How can you fix it if you don't know where it's broken or how it's broken? You can't. You're not. That's just common sense. But I think that that's a talking point to protect a lot of corrupt people within the Republican Party. And it's really interesting, my time as chair, and I think that's why there's such an effort to take us out. Because it's not, I just happen to sit in the role as chair. It's not about me, right? The goal is to take all of us out. Because now, you know, us and these, what Pat Colbeck calls meddling kids, right? So us and all these meddling kids, now we're like looking behind the curtain. We're like, well, wait a second. There's a whole lot of corruption. There's a whole lot of things that haven't been working right. And when I became chair, it's not like I decided, like, you know, we're going to go and take these people down in the party. We don't have the time. I don't have time. Our goal is to win an election, but these people keep bothering us. So we don't have a choice. They're bothering us, so now we got to expose them. You know, we were stuck with it, like this lawsuit we have going on. And that's what's caused a lot of the kerfuffle, if you guys are aware of. It's not like we went trying to get people back, but Ron Weiser left us in $600,000 worth of debt. And Comerica wouldn't turn over documents. And then we started looking and now we have to file a lawsuit. And if people get in trouble, that's not my fault. That's their fault. They should have been acting ethically. So, you know, I really want to thank you all, and to about the Good Neighbor program, it's so important. I know you'll have comments about that after I speak, but the thing about with the Good Neighbor program, our belief is that, you know, we have a limited amount of activists. And you are all being asked to volunteer with this group and with that group and with this group and that group. So with the Good Neighbor program, our focus is one, citizen education and citizen training. And then we want to make sure that you're aware of all the various ways from various groups, whether it's Check My Vote or the Recount team, or you have all these other entities who have great ways that they're helping us solve governmental problems. And we want to encourage you to take a little bit of time to volunteer with each. So we believe that with the Good Neighbor program and us helping to connect you with these other entities and individuals who are having these great projects, by default it will help you improve your local government. Because if we improve our county government, we're in a better position to have better state government. Because the way we protect ourselves from the out of control state is a strong county. And that's where it begins. If we are good stewards of our own local communities, and we're making sure that, and that's not to say we don't volunteer in other places where people need help, because I mean, I would go door knocking in Troy. I don't live in Troy. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't go and cross-pollinate, but our primary concern is to be good stewards of our own community. So if we're good stewards of our own community, we by default will get better government. And with the Good Neighbor program, one of the things we want to do is start recruiting more people, start recruiting our neighbors. Because if we're being good stewards of our communities, and you go to your neighbor and you say, hey, you know, I was at the city council meeting the other day, were you aware of this? Were you aware of that? Most people have no idea what's happening. They just see the fruit of the craziness. They don't understand why it's occurring. So we have a responsibility as delegates to go off and tell people what's happening, how it's occurring within the local level. So that as we're having conversations with our neighbors, and the beauty of the Good Neighbor program is to help you do that connection. Because most people aren't comfortable with just going out and discussing politics with their neighbors. They're not. It's a very awkward situation. So we're trying to break down that barrier. And you can, it's even like a talking point when you talk about what's happening. You don't want to go in and start talking about the presidential election necessarily with certain people. They get all emotional. But if you just say, did you know in our city, how can they get upset with you for talking about what's happening in your city? So you go and talk to them about what's happening in your city, and you say, hey, we're trying to get some people together to show up at the city council meeting. We want more neighbors to be aware. How can somebody be upset with that? And so I learned some of this stuff through when I was volunteering with a church. We did some street preaching. And so, you know, our group we had, you know, our leader, a wonderful godly woman, but she would walk up to people with, you know, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Now, a lot of people, if that's the first thing you say to somebody, you're downtown Detroit, and that's the first sentence that comes out of your mouth, even though as a Christian, that's a great question, but that probably isn't the best way to lead into the conversation because you don't know how that person's going to respond. So then we got together and I suggested, say, hey, how about we start off with, can I pray for you today? But then when you start off with, can I pray for you today, most people will go, well, yeah. They go, yeah, you can pray for me. And then after you pray with the person, then you say, when was the last time you had a conversation with God? When was the last time you read your Bible? And the person may say, well, I'm not a Christian. Would you like a Bible? Maybe let me share with you why I'm a Christian. So you still get to that question, but you get to it a different way. So my point in saying this, we have to learn how to have these conversations with people where we still get to the same question, we still get to the same conclusion, but we have a softer approach to kind of open them up. Because the goal is better political representation. And the thing about it, if we had more people just involved in general, a lot of these problems would self-correct. We had some time when I was running for Secretary of State, and we were campaigning. It's near the Ann Arbor area. I can't remember which city it is. I don't know if it's Saline, but it's one of Dexter. I knew it started with, Dexter, Michigan. So they had a Memorial Day or Labor Day or some kind of parade, 4th of July, I can't remember. So we were in the parade, and I was talking to this woman who was a Democrat. And so we agreed, like, we totally abortion, we're not going to ever come to the same conclusion on the issue of abortion. But when it came to other local issues, we agreed. She agreed that our dollars are being mismanaged. She agreed that there's an issue of corruption in our government. So if we can at least get people to agree on to fight on these issues where we agree, we have a better opportunity to witness to them in the areas where we don't agree. Just like with street evangelism. So who doesn't want somebody to pray for them? Even if you may not share their faith, just the concept of someone wanting to, quote, wish you well, is we like it. But then after that, now we can have those tougher conversations. So the Good Neighbor program is a great way to begin to have, one, citizen education, recruit more volunteers, a way to engage our neighbors politically, started at the local level, and then also it can help connect us with other groups and or entities who are doing great things like Check My Vote, the way you can work to clean the voter rolls. And now you can come to your neighbors from a standpoint of authority, like, hey, you know, I looked in our neighborhood and there's a house down the street with 50 registrations. And you see the size of this house. And so your neighbor is more likely than not going to say, yeah, that is ridiculous. And say, well, would you help me? I just want to go down to City Hall and have a conversation. Your neighbor, if you can get 2 or 3 of you guys showing up and demanding clean voter rolls in your community, that's more powerful than an outside group doing it, because now you're saying this is my neighborhood. So can you imagine if you have 5 or 6 people in the city who are demanding that the local clerk clean up the voter rolls? And can you imagine if 1 or 2 of those people were independents or Democrats or anything else? That would be powerful. Because the goal is better governance. And yes, I may be chair of the Michigan Republican Party, but my goal isn't to save the Republican Party. Our goal should be to save America. It's just I happen to be a Republican because of the platform. That's it. So, you know, the Good Neighbor program is just, we just can't say enough about it, because it's a tool, it's a means to an end. So we really need people. Please sign up if you haven't done so. Connect with your county leader and just please get involved in that program. And it's going to be so critical in Macomb County. I think it's House 58 is Nate Shannon. I had to look because I have a list of vulnerable Democrat seats. That is a seat we can flip. That is the seat that we can flip. The reality is going to be us engaging our neighbors, because so many people are disengaged. Like Pastor Ralph mentioned about some of these vulnerable areas, engage the churches. We have such low voter turnout amongst the Christian community. It is extremely low. If we could just get the Christian vote to turn out, we could transform America. But we need to encourage people to do more than voting. We have to be good stewards of our society. And the Good Neighbor program is a tool to help without making people feel bad. Because I encounter a lot of people who go like, you know, I wasn't really paying attention, and they start feeling bad about themselves. This is a way to get around that. And it's a tool to show them how to get engaged. Because that's the other part. A lot of people don't know how to get engaged. So I know many delegates, when you were recruited to be a precinct delegate, you were told that all you need to do is vote twice a year. Were people told that? It is way more to it than that. It's way more to it than that. So what we want to do is just encourage people to be good stewards, because one of the challenges we have is that we know there are billions of dollars being funneled into our country in order to transform and collapse the republic. And one of the reasons why these fraudulent voter registrations are allowed to persist, because people get illegal campaign contributions through these fraudulent registrations. So it's not just voting. Those fake identities allow for illegal campaign contributions. So we'll never be able, even if right now someone would say, I'm dumping $20 million in the Michigan Republican Party, we still will be up against all those fraudulent registrations. So those fake identities, they're always going to have more money than us. So for us to try to fight our enemy on their terms is ridiculous. So we have to fight them on our terms, on the battlefield where we can win. And the battlefield where we can win is people. And so since our superior resource is people, then that means we need to recruit and train people and then mobilize people to be good stewards of their community and their county, and then that's how we take our country back.